This is a CJSR podcast.
Volunteer-powered,
Listener-supported,
campus and community
radio.
podcast. Radio and podcast.
One of the basic things of mankind as man has ever done back through prehistory was the preparation and the sharing of food with his fellow man. And it's just something you do, and it's something that keep it easy. Don't get stressed over it, you know? That's what I always try and to teach people.
Hi, my name is Maryam Shaheed, and you're listening to That's Food. That's Food is a podcast from CJSR, Edmonton's campus and community radio station, handmade with love by University of Alberta students, telling the backstory to food in Edmonton, one meal at a time. There are different dietary preferences in existence, but only a few take initiative to create delicious food for their diet preference. Our guest today is one of those people. As many of you have noticed, veganism is on the rise. A vegan or plant-based diet excludes all animal products, including meat, dairy, and eggs. You're probably wondering now, what do people eat on a vegan diet? Salad? Lettuce? Both? Well, actually, there are restaurants that offer vegan dishes that even meat lovers will enjoy. In this episode, I spoke with Martin Flint, a vegan chef who learned his trade at Padmanadi, to learn more about how he makes different vegan meats that appeal to even non-vegans. What foods did you love growing up?
I met vegetarianism probably 25 or 30 years ago, but growing up, I enjoyed the food that my dad put on the table in front of me. I enjoyed the standard thing, chocolate and sweets, or candy as you call it here, ice cream. But as far as sort of staples concerned, I'm English, we like chips. Potato chips, fries, you know. And one of the great delicacies was beans on toast, baked beans on toast. That was nice. And I also loved what's called a chip butty. A butty is a sandwich, so it's basically two slices of white bread and butter with fries and ketchup squashed in between them. And I enjoyed lots of vegetables as well. My dad was an avid gardener, so we always had fresh vegetables. And I ate meat as a child, chicken mostly. My mother got a job when I was very young. My mother got a job working in Oxford, where I'm from. One of the butchers, the purveyors of game, and in the covered market in Oxford. And she used to, when times were hard in this shop, she used to get paid in kind, and she'd bring home pheasant and quail and grouse, and it was really strange, some of the things that we used to eat. I had a very varied diet growing up. I was never finicky. I always ate what I was given.
So when did you decide to become a chef, and particularly a vegan chef? Right
back to square one. My father did all the cooking in our house. He used to say my mum would burn the water if she tried to make a cup of tea. So he did all the cooking, and I got sort of quite enthusiastic about it. But anyway, I've had a checkered past job-wise. I'm a marine engineer, a telephone engineer, an arborist, and a chef. My wife and I started going to Padmanadi on 96th Street in Edmonton, the vegan restaurant, probably too many years ago now, in a previous lifetime. We just sort of fell into the habit of going regularly. We ended up helping. And Kasim, the owner, was going off to Indonesia for a few months, and he asked me to look after the place. When he came back, I quit my day job as an arborist and went to work for him full time. And I gradually started cooking more and more. And with his help and encouragement, Kasim's help, the owner, and his daughter Maya Paramitha, they were great. You know, they encouraged me a lot. So I started cooking more and more, and then eventually I ended up as a full-time chef there. And then I sort of went a little bit more casual. And it's the sort of place, it's very egalitarian. You'll find the owner washing up or cooking. Washing dishes. There's no sort of job demarcation there, and I just sort of did a bit of everything, and so I gradually ended up as a chef. I didn't train or anything. Well, I trained at the wok. How's that? That's the best way to put it.
What is the biggest myth about cooking plant-based foods that you encounter?
I think one of the biggest myths, I always tell people, don't be scared of tofu. They seem to, if you put a block of tofu, when I've done some cooking demonstrations in the past, if I put a block of tofu in front of them, they sort of go like a deer caught in the headlamps, you know, they sort of, I don't know, they look scared of it. And I always say, if you work out dollar for dollar, pound for pound, how much that block of tofu costs compared to a same size piece of prime rib, okay, you mess up the tofu, you've lost $3. You know what I mean? And then keep trying. One of the myths is that there is nothing to cook. That's one of the things. What on earth do you eat? What do you cook? Do you eat soup? Do you have vegetable soup every other meal, interspersed with pasta and tomato sauce and French fries and salad? There's this idea that a plant-based diet is very, very restricted, but it's not. I probably, most people who eat meat and fish probably eat one of probably 10 different varieties of fish or meat. I probably eat one or any number of hundreds of different plants. You know, it's not difficult. There should be no mystique. There should be no mystery put around it. There should be no mystery. I don't like this idea of the cult of celebrity chefs. I don't like this idea. I mean, you're cooking food. One of the basic things of mankind as man has ever done back through prehistory was the preparation and the sharing of food with his fellow man. And it's just something you do, and it's something that, keep it easy. Don't get stressed over it, you know? That's what I always try and teach people.
So I want to talk about how you veganize non-vegan food.
Okay.
So the other day I was watching a vegan YouTuber, and she did a what I eat in a day video where she shows her full meals for that day. And she went to this restaurant in Amsterdam that served vegan sushi, and the smoked salmon was actually made out of tomatoes. And I thought that was very interesting. Yeah. So I was wondering, is there a common ingredient or base ingredient that goes into vegan meats, or is it completely up to your imagination?
I think it is. It should be up to your imagination. It isn't normally up to people's imagination. As I said, they tend to get a bit phased and a bit scared of it. One of the standard ingredients, luckily I am not gluten intolerant, and I certainly sympathize with people who are. I'm not gluten intolerant, so I use a lot of vital wheat gluten. It forms basically seitan, which is what we call wheat meat. There are two different varieties that we use in the restaurant. Mainly in the restaurant in Padmanadi, we use a soy-based, which is a soy protein. At home I tend to use a wheat-based protein, the vital wheat gluten. It's just, you take any flour and it's made up of starch and protein. If you produce a dough, I make seitan at home from ordinary wheat flour. You basically make a dough and you just keep kneading it and washing it under cold running water. And eventually it gets smaller and smaller as all the starch gets washed out, and all you're left with is the protein. And it's like an elastic, rubbery sort of substance, I suppose you could call it. And that is what basically goes into wheat meat. But tofu, I mean, I make a yerki. It's a yam jerky. I take sweet potatoes and I take thin slices of them. I prick them with forks and I marinate them, and then I dehydrate them. It's endless. I make sausages. I make burgers out of seitan. There's basically nothing that you can't veganize. I do different recipes for seitan or vegan chicken, ham, using food colorings and different colorings to get that sort of pink color. I use, you can use tofu. Tempeh is very misunderstood product, but there's nothing. As soon as you switch to a plant-based diet, the world is your vegan oyster, let's say.
Yeah, I'm actually glad you mentioned turning wheat into protein, because a lot of people wanting to try vegan food are concerned where they'd get protein.
Right, the stock questions, where do you get your protein? And then they go vitamin D, B12, what's the other ones? Oh, there's lots of different things. You go back, you ask any doctor, you go to any hospital, or certainly ask any GP, And I don't think anyone has ever treated anyone for protein deficiency. The standard American diet, the guidelines in the American diet many years ago was that you should get 30% of your daily calorie intake should be protein. I mean, that is ridiculous. Now they've come down to you need about 5 to 10% in your diet and everything. If you take there's a very good author, very good Dr. Joel Furman. I can't remember the name of his book, but he says that you shouldn't use when you're looking at the nutrient density in food, you shouldn't use a milligram or a gram, because it has no bearing on weight loss or energy. He says what you do is you look at the nutrient density per 100 calories of the food. Now, if you take prime rib steak, 100 calories of prime rib steak, it has roughly 5 point something milligrams or grams of protein. If you take 100 calories worth of romaine lettuce, it has 11.2 grams of protein. So basically, you've got twice as much protein per 100 calorie serving in romaine lettuce than you have in prime rib steak. Obviously, 100 calories of prime rib steak is about this, I don't know, half the quarter of the size of a Rubik's cube. But 100 calories worth of romaine lettuce is very much more filling because it's like 3 heads of romaine lettuce.
So one thing that makes vegetables different from meat, it's the texture, right? How do you solve that problem? How do you incorporate the texture into your vegan meats?
Basically what I do, I'm trying to think back to my most common and popular recipe. It's basically wheat gluten. And then what I'll do is I will mash up some beans, any beans, black beans, kidney beans, well, obviously red kidney beans give a nice color. I tend to like using white beans, cannellini beans, navy beans, and I'll just mash up half a cup I put it in with some liquid smoke and some nutritional yeast. I mean, every time I say nutritional yeast, I just thank whoever is up there for producing this stuff. I don't know how I do about it.
Yeah, I use that as the cheese substitute.
Oh my goodness me, yeah, I use it by the ton. So I'll mix in vital wheat gluten and some olive oil, some liquid smoke, nutritional yeast, the chopped beans, the mashed beans, and then I just put it in a pressure cooker or simmer it or wrap it in foil and steam it to get different textures in the meat. It's just endless ways of doing it. I mean, I remember reading somewhere that they say that if you stop eating something, then it takes you about 6 months to a year to forget the flavor.
Oh yeah, your body stops craving it. I read that too.
Yeah, it's the fact that you actually forget the flavor. So when someone says to me, it tastes like chicken, I say, I don't know, I can't remember what chicken tastes like. I mean, I have lots of friends, and I know people through the restaurant, and Kasim's family. Most of them have been vegan from birth. I've known people who have been brought up in the Jain religion, and some Hindus that have been vegan or vegetarian from birth. So it's pointless to say, well, it tastes like chicken to them, you know. But no, I've forgotten what these foods taste like. So to me, and what I always think is, if you want to eat a beef burger, and I use the term beef loosely in burgers, and I want to eat a seitan burger, if you're enjoying it and I'm enjoying it, so be it. You know, I'm not trying to replicate. I try to replicate the texture and the flavor of meat, insofar as I would like people to stop eating meat. And I don't know if you know Sir Paul McCartney's late wife, Linda McCartney. She was a vegetarian, vegan. She produced a line of food. She still does. It's difficult to find them in Canada, but you can find them in the States and obviously in Britain. And she used to produce these burgers, the Linda McCartney burgers, that were vegan, and they were more like meat. They're like the Beyond Meat burger now. And they used to say, well, why on earth are you producing something that tastes like meat? And she says, I want people to stop eating meat, and if I can get them, that's what I want to do. So if I can get a meat eater to eat one of my burgers and then think, oh, put a seed of thought in their mind that there is an alternative, you know, and But no, you just, I mean, as far as the texture on the meat's concerned, just experiment and find what you like. You know, and like I've always said, if you know the first couple of batches end up in the bin or the dog, then so be it. You know, it's just keep trying, and then it's an immense satisfaction when you actually get it right.
So that ties up to my next question, because looking at the menu from Padmanadi, even though it's vegan restaurant, you would see fried chicken and shrimp and beef and so on. So I was wondering what makes these different meats different from each other? So like how is vegan chicken different from vegan beef? Is it seasonings?
Yeah. Basically, it's the seasoning. I mean, believe it or not, I think I'm probably totally wrong, and some experienced historian could put me right. But the idea of soy and fake meats, soy and wheat fake meats, goes back to Buddhist monks in about the 8th century. I mean, they've been around for a long time, and they were perhaps they got fed up with fries and salad and spaghetti and tomato sauce, but they started experimenting with these things and they invented them. Now, what you do is you basically form the soy protein in a commercial situation. You form the soy protein and then you extrude it into long strands. It's like I said, it's like a very elastic substance. And then you reconstitute it with different seasonings. I will put like a poultry seasoning in my chicken meat. I will put, if I'm going in for a burger, then I'll put lots of liquid smoke in it. I'll make the chicken a lighter color. I'll use some white beans in it. You eat with your eyes and you taste with your nose. You know, that's the golden rule, isn't it? Taste is like 50% smell and 50% taste buds. And it's also what things look like. But no, these meats are donkeys years old. Now in the restaurant, people say, well, why do you call it chicken? Why do you call it beef? It's we get sore fingers by doing inverted commas, you know, quotes every time you say beef or chicken. And I'm doing it to the screen now. And then we also don't want to put it on the menu. You know that if you come into Padmanadi, it's vegan. There's no animal products in the whole place, except the customers and the staff. But if you come in and you see chicken and beef, what we're doing is we're trying to approximate what it is. And if we put down, we're going to give you curried textured soy protein or TSP or TVP, it doesn't look so nice on the menu. So what we're trying to do is approximate the color and the approximate taste. Now, you see, when we talk about chicken, that's a good point, because if you took a chicken breast, I mean, I used to eat many donkeys years ago in Britain. I used to buy chicken breasts. I'd take the skin off. I was a bit health conscious even in those days. And then if you put a chicken breast into a microwave oven, a little drop of water on a saucer, and you cook it, you take that out. How many meat eaters do you know that would cut into that chicken and eat it? No salt, no pepper, no sauce, just a bare chicken breast that's been microwaved. I can't imagine that they would sit there and eat it with great relish and gusto. Now, I could be sitting on the same table as them, peeling a mango. Now, I'm not going to slather my mango in sauce or salt or pepper or sugar. I'm really enjoying that mango as it is. So basically, people who eat meat, the real meat, they're not eating the meat, they're eating the flavors that go with it. They're eating the seasoning. My wife and I used to go to the Commonwealth Stadium to watch soccer and different things. And we used to go into the concession and we would pay 50 cents for a hot dog bun. And then we would fill it with all the trappings, you know, on that you helped yourself to, the coleslaw and all the onions and so. And you didn't notice that there wasn't this meat thing in the bun with it, you know. So as far as why we call them chicken and beef, it's just because we try and approximate the different flavors, and that's about it, really.
Do you find that most people who go to Padmanadi are vegans, or they just wanted to try vegan food?
I would say that. No, I would say, I don't know. I think it could be 50-50. It could not. I mean, there are vegetarians that go, and there are. But I would think that no, I don't know. I think on most weeks the majority of people certainly wouldn't be vegan. Vegetarian, perhaps a different matter. We have people. Sorry, no, go on. What were you going to say? We have people that come in We had one couple that used to come in and they said it was their favourite restaurant in Edmonton, and they would come in probably once every 2 weeks, and they would order a shed full of food and they would take a lot of it home, and that was their favourite restaurant. But they were dyed-in-the-wool meat eaters, you know. I mean, but they just loved the flavour. And I used to say to them, "Well, great, you know, if I can stop you eating meat one day a week, that's, you know, my work here is done." We get lots and lots of people come in. We had a gentleman came in the other day, and he sat there looking at the menu, and I knew he was a bit confused. This was one lunchtime, and he's looking through the menu, then he closes it and opens it again. And he called me over and he said, "Oh, excuse me," he said, "where's the Canadian food?" Sorry. And I said, what, bannock and poutine, you know? But anyway, and I said, "Sorry, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, burgers or steak or stuff." And I said, "Oh, no, I'm sorry, this is a vegetarian restaurant." I mean, he was just literally walking by and felt peckish. It was getting late. And he called in and I said, "Well, look," I said, "No, stay. You know, I do you a meal. Do you like?" I went through the menu with him: the ginger beef, the curry chicken, and I said, "Look, hand on my heart, and this is the God's honest truth. If I serve you a meal and you genuinely don't enjoy it, then it's on the house. I will pay for it. I can't make it on the house because it's not my restaurant, but I will genuinely pay for it." And at the end of it, he got up and he came over and he came over to the machine. And he said, "Oh, looks like I'm paying," and smiled, you know? And that's what I love about Padmanadi, and that's what I love about when people come in there. But I would say no. I would say that any given day, you'll probably find 50-50 or a majority of omnivores in there rather than vegans.
Could you walk me step by step on how you would approach creating a vegan version of a dish?
One of the classic ones would be, what about a bacon burger? You know, I mean, I would start, obviously, I'd make my own buns. So a lot of bread is vegan. If bread isn't vegan, if shop-bought bread isn't vegan, you should ask them why. You know, I mean, my bread, if I make sourdough bread, comes from flour, water, and salt. I use natural yeasts in the sourdough, but it should only ever be 4 ingredients: flour, water, salt, and yeast. So I make my own buns. My wife is a keen gardener, so luckily this time of the year we'll be eating our own tomatoes, we'll be picking our own lettuce and cucumbers out of the garden. As far as a mayo, I make my own mayo from oils, obviously an egg-free mayo. And then the seitan. Basically, if I wanted to make my burgers, I would get wheat gluten, mashed white beans. Then I would put olive oil, water, liquid smoke, nutritional yeast. I would put some vegan Worcestershire sauce. You have to be careful with Worcester sauce, we call it back home. You have to be careful with Worcester sauce because Liam Perrins and makes like that, you have to be careful that they haven't got anchovies in. So I actually look for a vegan one. Safeway do a generic vegan one. So I'd put some Worcestershire sauce in it, some pepper, ground black pepper, and then you just mix it up into a dough. Not too wet, not too dry. Then I knead it, then I roll it out, and then cut it into and try and shape it into burgers. It's a very strange substance. It's very elastic, very rubbery. And then I shape it into burgers, put it in an instant pot, put it in my instant pot pressure cooker, put it with some stock made out of soy sauce, a bit of instant, liquid smoke, and some water. And then I'll just cook it in the instant pot, take them out, and then you press them like you do tofu to get the water out of them. Just put them between 2 boards. And then the bacon you make out of rice paper. You know the rolls that you would use for making salad rolls?
Yeah, the clear ones?
Yeah, the clear ones.
Yeah.
And you basically, you soak them, you double strength, you soak them, and you make a marinade, and that's liquid smoke again, soy sauce, nutritional yeast, olive oil, and you put it in a dish. You cut these and you cut the hydrated rice paper strips. You run them through I'm doing the actions here, you can't see me. You run them through the marinade, shake it off, and then you put them onto some parchment paper. put them into strips, and then you put them in the oven at about 425 degrees Fahrenheit. I use a toaster oven. 425 degrees Fahrenheit for about 7 or 8 minutes. And it bubbles up and it goes crispy around the edges. You take them out, put the next batch in, and that's your bacon. And it's unbelievable. It really is. I mean, I fed it to people, and it's just bacon, you know. And then I'd sort of, you know, I have the bun, I have the homemade mayo, I have the lettuce, tomato, cucumber. I sometimes put relish, just shop bought relish in, but you know, the cucumber relish. We've got our own pickles that we pickle ourselves, and then that's it. That's your burger. You've got yourself a bacon burger. It's easy, but the thing is, it's fun. It's fun because I think in life you have to achieve things, and it's the things that you achieve that give you the most satisfaction. If you just open a packet and throw it on the stove, and you know, and people always say, quick, throw your dinner in the microwave so you can get off and do something. Do what? There's nothing more fundamental than cooking, like I've said, you know. The thing is now, obviously, there's been this incredible upsurge certainly in home baking. I mean, it was amazing. After the crisis hit, I mean, it was, never mind the toilet roll, it was the flour. You know, I couldn't get hold of bread flour. You couldn't get hold of yeast for love and money. I've been using sourdough starters anyway, so I didn't need the yeast. And then I thought, at the end of this crisis, whether it takes 1 year, 2 years, or whatever, how many months or years it takes, you're going to have people's pantries stocked with out-of-date yeast and flour. You know, they sort of panic buy, but you make time. You know, if you can't make time, if you have to do something, you have to be somewhere, then obviously you can do things quickly. But you can still do them, you know, vegan food. I mean, what have you got? Instant noodles, packet of instant noodles. You know, there's nothing quicker than that. And throw some seasonings in, and a little sachet of dried vegetables, or buy dried vegetables. You know, dry them yourself. I have a dehydrator, and I make different seasonings. Any vegetables, I go down through the fridge, find stuff that's getting a little bit, you know, not too long to go. And I just chop it up, put it in the dehydrator, put it in my NutriBullet, and I've got vegetable powder. And I use that as a stock. I use that as a seasoning. I hate wasting things, you know. Oh, excuse me. I hate wasting.
What do you think has changed in the vegan culinary scene since you started out, as opposed to how it is now?
Oh, it's changed beyond recognition. It's like I said, you get so many more places. They're becoming more amenable. They're becoming more open to veganism. It's not, you don't have to hide your light under a bushel. You know, now it's loud and proud. I'm vegan on my T-shirt. You know, I think that there are more restaurants. There are more restaurants that are offering vegan alternatives. There are more hotels are offering more sort of vegan food in their dining rooms. Some friends of ours used to go to the Hotel McDonald once a month for supper, and they used to phone and say, they're both vegan. Both, I know them through Padmanadi, as customers through Padmanadi, and they used to phone the hotel and say that they were coming, and they'd book a table, and could they have their vegan meal. And the chefs used to come out and talk to them, and they said they used to wait with bated breath for their call because they loved it. They loved doing something different, you know. And the chefs used to love it, and they used to. And one of the chefs, after they'd been there 2 or 3 times, one of the chefs called him back, and completely out of the blue, about a week before they were due to go, to discuss the menu. Would they like this? Would they like that? You know, and so that has changed a lot. I think the main thing is now, the bottom line is that more and more restaurants are offering vegan food, vegan alternatives. You don't have to go in and have a spaghetti and tomato sauce. You don't have to go and have fries and a salad. You know, you don't have to have the meat and 3 veg, but leave the meat off. You know. No, more and more, and then of course more and more shops, more and more. I mean, if you drink beer and wine, there are more and more. Guinness went vegan. Now, why on earth would Guinness go vegan? There was no reason to, other than I mean, Guinness is like a multinational corporation who's in the job to make money by making beer. And if you see what I mean. So why would they go vegan? Because they know that there's a market out there and more people are going vegan. But no, it's becoming way more acceptable. More and more people are becoming more and more health conscious, especially young people. And I think that's what's changed certainly over the 21 years that I've been in Canada.
Now it's time for a snack fact. Have you ever wondered where the word vegan came from? Well, towards the end of World War II, the co-founder of the Vegan Society came up with the word. He was basically inspired by the word vegetarian and took the first 3 letters and the last 2 from vegetarian. Simple, right? This snack fact was sourced from bbc.co.uk. And that's it for this episode of That's Food. Today's episode was produced by me, Maryam Shaheed. Special thanks to Martin Flint for speaking with me today. Our music is by Doug Hoyer, and you can find all our episodes on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And on our website, that'sfood.transistor.fm. You can contact us at that'sfood@cjsr.com. We are also That's Food CJSR on Facebook and Instagram. That's Food is produced at CJSR in Edmonton on Treaty 6 territory. But is it food? That's food!